Westbrook.
That's incredible.
Don't hide.
CJ combining for 68 points, 23 assists, and a win over the Kings. Richard, I'll ask you the simple question. Do the Blazers have the best backcourt in the league?
Yes. Christian James and Dame Dollar are the best backcourt in this league currently. They're
Robert?
But don't hide.
You know, I'm not going to say they're the best. I'm not going to say that. I love Dame. I love him to death. But think about it. Bradley Beal's putting on a show. Westbrook is an MVP, triple-double. So there's an argument for a lot of other duos out there.
But my thing is this: don't hide behind you. If I was that guy, he was like, today I didn't. It's like, no, look. At the end of the day, just
scared, man.
Say this. Say this.
What you gonna say?
Look, do you have an MVP? Have you played in the finals? Because that duo has an individual that's done both.
Well, yes. I would say, though, that Westbrook has not found his footing quite yet with the Wizards right now, and I would certainly give it to Dame and CJ, or as you have taken to calling him,
Christian James.
There we go. Welcome to The Jump. I am Rachel Nichols alongside a couple of NBA champions, Richard Jefferson, Robert Horry. I would like to brag that between the three of us, we have 8 rings. That's the right way to say it, Richard.
That is right. I like to say
I don't think we need to say anything more. Who has 7 on this
We're
panel?
team, baby.
Might
We're
be,
team.
Yeah, there we go.
Yes.
So kind. Coming up, how good are the Rockets now after acquiring Victor Oladipo in that massive 4-team blockbuster trade? We will discuss the Houston side of things in a moment, but you know where we're going first. Yeah, Brooklyn. It says something about a trade if we can simultaneously have been talking about it possibly happening for months and have it knock everyone over when it comes through. Durant, Harden, Kyrie, all on one team. It's a dazzling collection of basketball talent. Durant on his way to proving he's right back up there with LeBron as the best player in the NBA. Harden, one of the game's greatest ever scorers, who's finished top 5 in MVP voting 6 of the past 7 years. Kyrie is the league's best ball handler who can flat out perform magic around the hoop. They are 3 of the most outrageously talented players in the league. But they're also, of course, 3 of the NBA's most distinct personalities, making all of this potentially explosive in about 100 different directions, both good and bad. So what does happen when 3 crazy kids moved into one of those Brooklyn lofts together to try to take on the world? I'm glad you asked. Yes, in honor of this mega trade, The Jump presents our latest show within a show. Three's Company, Brooklyn edition. And just like with Jack, Janet, and Chrissy,
Jack
you can
Roper.
expect plenty of hijinks
Why you got Kyrie's face looking like that?
as we see
Everybody
how
else
this
smiling.
group meshes.
Well, why did they put him in Chrissy's spot, though?
Now, executive producer, Nets general manager Sean Marks is optimistic. Here he was this morning talking about the screaming neon elephant in the room, team chemistry.
Look, I think whenever you're meshing personalities, I think we've got to wait and see how this all fits on the floor and so forth. I think these guys have given us the right answers. They've said, hey, they want to play together. They can see this fitting. I think they're at a time in their careers, they understand that there's without a doubt going to be some nights where 1 or 2 need to sacrifice for the other and so forth. But I think they're all looking for that common goal.
Marks added that Harden and Durant already knowing and liking each other should help speed the team building process here. Perhaps, although as he was speaking, it was hard to not think about how that same scenario went so wrong between Harden and Russell Westbrook that Russ asked out after just 1 season. As for the Kyrie angle, Marks denied that Kyrie's current situation spurred the Nets to finally pull the trigger on this trade, insisting it was not a hedge to give Durant a more reliable co-star. He also noted Kyrie is, quote, very excited to return to the team after his mysterious absence. But honestly, none of that addresses what is going to be the real issue going forward. Is Kyrie going to be okay with essentially being the 3rd option in Brooklyn behind 2 former MVPs? We know part of why Kyrie asked out of Cleveland was because he didn't want to continue shaping either his game or his standing on the team around LeBron anymore. We know there were issues coexisting with teammates in Boston. We know that in other recent big threes, guys like Kevin Love, Chris Bosh have had some trouble adjusting to that 3rd role. And these 2 guys, well, they're at least notoriously mellow. At least Kyrie plays a different position. He will have the ball in his hands more. Maybe Ray Allen and Boston is a better comparison. Although clearly it is something to watch, as is how this Nets team looks on the defensive end. With Jarrett Allen out the door, the Nets no longer have anyone who you would call a defensive standout. In fact, 5 of the Nets' key rotation players had a negative defensive real plus-minus last season. That's a lot. Still, all Brooklyn really needs is a functional level of team defense, something KD and Kyrie, and yes, at times, yes, even James, have shown to be capable of. So if they want to play hard on that end, they can. Also, let's be honest, there's going to be plenty of nights, at least in the regular season, they won't have to. In a year where there is no plan to hold an actual all-star game, Brooklyn should have plenty of that vibe nightly. At their best, we could see a 3-ring circus of death-defying feats of basketball brilliance. Will it be enough to threaten the defending champion Lakers at the very top of the NBA pyramid? We'll have to see. Will it be enough to cause an arms race in the East with the Bucks, Sixers, Heat, or Celtics now trying to pull off their own big trades? We will see. Will it be
and playing well? The difference between this 3 and let's say the big 3 that Golden State had with Kevin Durant, those guys were all ball movers and shooters, right? Klay Thompson was moving off screens. Klay was moving off screens. The 3 of these guys are all ball handlers.
I'm still looking at this team like, who's going to take over? Because when you look at James Harden, he gets his rhythm by playing with the rock. KD playing with the rock. Kyrie playing with the rock. So that is going to be trouble because they're not shooters like Steph and Klay who can come out and shoot the ball. So this big 3 is a little bit worrisome for me because they all playing with the rock. And now, who's going to play defense? Who's going to come off the bench? They gave away a lot to get this guy. And now they have nothing because at the end of the day, you need what people like to call the others, the bench, to step up. They have no bench. They have nobody to step up. So I'm looking at the 3 J's, Jeff, Jordan, and the other guy, the shooter, to come off.
Joe Harris.
Joe Harris, to shoot the ball and play. They gotta step up. And we know Jordan is old. We don't know how he's going to step up. So, I know how it is when you get up in age and still trying to compete.
Yeah, we both do. But the crazy thing is, too, is when you look at it, obviously there's questions about Kyrie, what his situation is. And then James Harden is obviously not in the championship shape that he has been the last few years. And when
that gets fixed over the course of the season.
But this is my thing. Like, look at this picture here. This was James Harden going into the bubble. People were talking about how amazing shape he was. Now he overjumped this shape and went to the next position. So he went from super skinny to and he did
now.
Yeah, and he did this in about a 3-month span. So that some of that is probably unhappy and he's not wanting to be there. And we're just not going to allude to other things. But to win a championship, and we're talking about winning championships, you got to be.
We know body shaming on this show, Richard.
It's not body shape. I'm saying he's unhappy.
He's unhappy. I think
come on.
Fine. You look at his body and you look at
same thing with Jokic last year. Jokic wasn't in great shape. He got in great shape. They went to a conference final.
Okay, so you guys have both been in versions of this kind of situation. You played on a team, right, with Vince Carter, with Jay Kidd. Robert, I can name several teams that you played in, several locker rooms with big personalities, big, huge stars. How does it sort itself out? How does that work over the course of a season?
You have to have someone that's not one of the big 3 who's willing to step up and say, hey, guys, it ain't about you 3. It's about us as a team. I want to win a championship just as bad as you guys. Just because you're making the most money, you're getting the most notoriety, I'm still on this team. I'm looking at Jeff Green to be that guy. He's a voice of reason. People forget he's played with KD before when KD first came into the league. So he might have his ear. So he can talk to these guys and say, hey, listen, it ain't about you. Let's work this thing out and play together as a team and win a championship because that is the goal, to cement our names in history.
Yeah. And the last thing I'll say is this. Look, now KD's won some championships, right? Kyrie's won a championship. James Harden is the one that hasn't, right? So I know that these guys are motivated, but there is a different type of motivation when you're searching for something that you haven't found yet, right? And it's like, look, they've won all the awards. Kyrie's won the Rookie of the Year. He's won all the other stuff. He's probably not going to win an MVP with this team, but I'm just saying it's like, what are they fighting for? And so when you're trying to fight for something you haven't gotten, there's easier to make sacrifices a la the Big 3, a la the Miami Big 3. They're fighting for something that they haven't gotten yet. So that's one thing about this Brooklyn team. Are they full already, right?
Right. I mean, it's like you, when you were with the Nets, you stepped up and said, look, I know I'm far and away so much better than you, Jason Kidd or Vince Carter, but I'm willing to
this is the best thing that ever happened to me playing on those teams is on most nights, I got the third best defender on most nights. I got the third best.
Ask you something about me. Sorry, first question, how to play with Boban. Second question, why unblock from him?
Aw, thank you, Boban. This show-offs. Mavs, Hornets, Luka all alone.
Dunk
Bench
it!
wants a dunk, but he just lays it in. Rob, why? Why deny us?
Well, you got to understand, he's trying to reserve his energy. He
No.
has to reserve his energy for MVP, man. He can't just show off every night. He can't show off, man. He got to just,
You
relax,
can't dunk
man.
an uncontested layup. Come on, man. Come on, man. Because you know what? In the postseason, somebody's going to track that down and block it.
Hey, but look at the landing. He's
know,
got a little gimpy.
Look,
on the
they're
landing there.
disappointed. They wanted a windmill.
Yeah, but you know that Rick Carlisle's out there going, that's very sensible.
Yeah. That's what all the coaches went through. That's what Larry Brown. That's what Larry Brown wanted.
I respect him because look at the
Francis
score.
did.
You don't want to show out.
That's
You
not
respect
true.
the score.
That's the tone.
Big resourcefulness. Nets, Knicks, check out this nifty tip pass.
Chioza.
So we found a comp, Richard,
Oh yes.
with Jason Kidd
Watch this pass
diming
by
you
J.
up,
Kidd.
2003.
Woo! Speaking of Lucius Harris, there's my guy. You wasn't gonna get that pass,
All right,
Lucius.
so which was the better Nets combo pass at Madison
Well,
Square
let me
Garden?
say this: the pass was better by
specific
Jason
question.
Kidd. The player that caught the pass was better.
I mean,
Kevin Durant.
we didn't need you on a national
I was
television
like,
show
okay,
to
which
say
one
that.
do you saw? Which one? Who was the better player there?
The better. See, that's a great by Chioza because look at that.
That's nice.
Yeah.
I give him that.
Let's
I think
look
it
at that.
was,
You
I think
can't
it was a
beat that.
mistake, though.
But Jason Kidd would hook
Jason
you up
Kidd.
every day.
Yeah. Well,
had
let's put it
2
this
games
way.
with him. Love Jason
Yeah, he's
Kidd.
got the second most assists in NBA history and the most to me in his individual career. Just
Richard
saying.
Jefferson history.
Gotta have it. Gotta tell my kids.
Miscommunication. Bucks Pistons. Giannis gets it on the wing.
Oh, why would you
The
run
paint
him off?
just
Oh.
opens up. I believe that would qualify as a defensive breakdown, Robert.
Yeah, that's posterizing. Guys like, that's James Harden. I mean, that's defense that nobody wants to play. They're just trying to get on the other end, shoot some threes right there. You got to play some type of defense.
No, but come on. Let's not
Nobody
talk
wants
about.
to get
Let's not
posterized.
talk about those four. Let's talk about Blake. Blake, what are you doing running Giannis off the line?
I know it. Stop.
Come on. He took off. He took off where he was about to shoot from. Wait, what? Come on.
It's like, all right, you're moving. I'm going for it.
Yeah, Blake can't look at the other four
As
guys
a coach,
like, what are you
gotta call
doing?
a timeout, and I'm yelling at everybody. on that
Everybody.
team.
Everybody.
What would Pop have done? Pop would have taken
Pop
all
took everybody
five
out. Pop, y'all go in the locker room
All
and take a
y'all
shower.
out.
Take elevation, airplane mode activated. Derek Jones Jr. getting up for 2 huge slams against the Kings. Richard, is he the bounciest player in the league?
Ooh, look, when you win dunk contests and your nickname is airplane mode, look, he's looking down in the rim. Yeah, I would say he's up there. I don't want to give him number 1, but he's definitely top 2. And he
He's
ain't
top 3. I'll give him top 3.
Yeah, he's top 2 and he ain't number 2. Let's
It's
just say it that
dunk
way.
contestants probably say, hey, I still got hops.
Yeah, shout out my guy Aaron Gordon.
I was going to say a controversial dunk contest
Yes.
winner. So, there you go.
Yeah.
And Zach LaVine.
Look at that from half court, too.
All right, guys. Lakers ending up beating the Thunder by 29 points. Let's have a little chat about that. 6 Lakers scoring double digits. Now, after the game, LeBron asked about the Harden and Nets trade, and here is what he said.
I don't really have too much of a reaction. Obviously trades and things happen every year. And, for me, my main focus on what we do here and how we continue to get better. And that was the case today. The trades happened today, and I couldn't allow myself to kind of indulge in that, knowing that we had a team that we had to play tonight. So my main focus today was on the Thunder.
Well, LeBron doesn't want to look ahead, but we sure as hell do. Richard, which team is better on paper? On paper, obviously, the Nets or the Lakers?
Oh, the Lakers, you don't disrespect the champion. The Lakers are the best team in the NBA. They were last year, and they are this year. That team on the right has a lot of work to do as far as building the chemistry to get to a championship. It's never just...
That's why I said on paper.
I know on paper, but we can't even just...
On
tease a little
paper,
bit.
on the floor, Lakers by far. Because if you look at that team, LeBron's going to have an off night to play defense. That's going to make him that much better if those are the lineups. So there's no way the Nets can even contend with the Lakers. Their bench is not there. Their starters are not there. Not taken away from their big three. But if you look at that Lakers squad, they got some skill. They got a skill set like no other with the additions they just had.
And real quick, let's talk about the Nets. If Kyrie comes back 100% healthy, James Harden gets in championship condition, right, everything starts rolling for the Nets, they are a huge problem. Now, there's a lot more ifs. The Lakers already are a problem. They are the champion. They are the team that's favored to win the championship. So when you look at which team has more work to do to get to peak championship form, it's the Nets. And so, you know, even on paper, I think there's a lot more for the Nets. But boy, I love that roster right now. I like what they have. I like the stars. It makes it fun to watch basketball.
Is that really a roster yet, though?
Well, it's a roster.
It's a roster.
Let's see if it's a team.
But like I said, it's paper.
They still, hey, the Nets still have some cap room to, you know, bring in some I don't know, whoever. No, not me. I'm right here.
Okay.
I'm sorry, Pete.
There's nothing out there.
Follow up on your LeBron defensive point and sort of the larger point we've been talking about defense on the Nets side. I'm looking at our ESPN stats and info group, and they're saying that LeBron James allowed opponents to shoot just 30% when he's the contesting defender, which is by far the best in the NBA so far this season. So if you are looking at sort of, was LeBron's defense going to drop back off a little bit this season after he made such a concerted effort last year? Is he setting the same tone in the regular season now after such a short offseason? Numerically, the answer so far is yes. So we'll have to see in the hypothetical finals between those two teams.
Numerically, he wasn't guarding KD, James Harden, and Kyrie on one possession.
That's why he has KCP, AD,
Tell
and other guys. So you don't have to play. Yeah.
Up next, we will welcome in longtime Rockets reporter, our insider Tim McMahon, to discuss with James Harden.
Three-point games was back in 1982. Moses Malone. I wasn't even born there. Rest in peace. I wasn't even born there, no. You know, Hall of Famer. But you got your rhythm going now. Thanks, James.
2015, the beard was feeling sassy. That was a Hall of Fame moment. He actually recreated this
so funny
for us at Media Day. Watch this. There we go.
It wasn't the same. It wasn't the same.
All right, that had to make the top five. Number 4, 2014, Aaron Baines on a poster.
Oh, that's like, you could do James Harden highlights all show.
Yes.
This man's got enough highlights to just,
when you left-handed, you get more people with dunk than anybody because they're so used to right-handed guys.
No, tell you Oubre been catching.
But he also does this, 2019, breaking Jamal Murray's ankles hard.
You got no business being out there on his body like that.
Hey, what are you thinking, Jamal? I'm like, are you serious right now? I'm like, a lot of these ankle
you know that's
breakers,
not the last.
You gotta get a better shoe.
You know the Clippers are about to get on this
out.
highlight. Here come the. I ain't seen it.
2019, beating Dubs in OT.
You ain't got to look at Draymond and talk to him like that, though.
Oh, nice. That, you know.
But that's what made the point.
I know. I just
one of the best defenders in the game on you, and the
and one.
Yeah.
And look at that, two of them.
Two of the best defenders right
Look at that.
Whew.
In
And you
face.
know,
Look at him.
you guys know what was going to be number one. You know what was going to be
you
number
know
one.
what?
2018, Harden snatching Wesley Johnson's
Oh my
ankles.
God, Wesley! And then
Now
look
that
at
was an
him.
ankle breaker.
There's nothing better because
feels
after
bad for
this,
Wesley.
he licked his lips. He actually looked at him and licked his lips
That's not cool.
and then talked about it afterward.
Oh no!
That takes a lot of gall.
Good.
That boy. That's James.
I remember like it was yesterday. Just the entire sequence, and you know, as I got ready to shoot my shot and I looked down, he was looking at me and kind of like a face off for like 2 seconds, and it was just like, and I kind of felt bad, but then I wanted to wait a little longer. It was just an instinct. It wasn't like, I wasn't trying to be disrespectful. It was just, my lips was dry a little bit. I don't know.
He wasn't trying to do anything disrespectful, guys.
Kids, go home and Google Randolph Childress.
I was about to say the same thing.
Randolph Childress.
Kid.
Kids, Google Randolph Childress. That until that play, Randolph Childress thing was the most disrespectful thing that I had seen on the
But it's
basketball.
not anymore.
It ain't that
Thanks
anymore.
to that. All right. We are now thrilled to welcome in ESPN reporter Tim McMahon, who has covered the Rockets for a long time. You have leading the league in usage rate among reporters in this last month or two. Tim, of course, now with James leaving the Rockets, he is the second leading scorer in franchise history behind Hakeem. Harden, first in assists, 3-pointers made, free throws, all-star spot in 8 seasons as Rockets. So given the long picture, not just this morning when everyone woke up, but big picture, what should James Harden's legacy in Houston be?
You know, I really think it is a complicated legacy. He is, with all due respect, Moses Malone and you, Robert, he's the second best player in franchise history. But Unlike Akeem, he did not deliver a championship. Unlike Akeem, he did not, stay in Houston for his entire prime. And then obviously this was a bitter divorce. And I think part of Harden's legacy is obviously the individual brilliance. He was a perennial MVP candidate, won the MVP, the scoring titles, the assist titles, revolutionized offensive basketball in the NBA. But there's also the short shelf life with his hand-picked co-stars. 3 years, then he couldn't wait to get rid of Dwight Howard. 2 years with Chris Paul. 1 year with Russell Westbrook, then they both wanted out. And so I think that has to be considered part of, like I said, what is really a complicated legacy for James Harden with the Rockets.
What do you guys see as Harden's legacy there?
Well, look, this is what his legacy is going to be. No one will ever wear his jersey again, and his jersey will hang up in the Raptors at some point in time. That's the biggest compliment to somebody's legacy. That's starting. Yes, it is very, very complicated. Like him, he's the second best player to ever play for the Rockets. All of these things are compliments because they have a great, like Clyde Drexler, they've had great players. But Robert Horry, obviously, they drafted me, so I'm going to count myself in that also. But ultimately, I think that's where you look at the final piece of his legacy. Will anybody wear his jersey again? Will it hang up in the Raptors? And the answer is yes.
I don't know about that one because you got to understand, Tillman Fertitta is the owner of this team now. He only had the pleasure of having Harden for 3 years. So I don't know if he's going to say, okay, going to put him up in the Raptors like the other guys who see their legacy, those guys are in the Raptors. So it's going to be different because if you look at what James did, he never really took him to the promised land. He asked for all stuff. He got a big contract. He got all these players to place around him, and he left town in the manner they left town. So right now, there is a nasty taste in the mouth of the Houston's fans, and that was the most important thing, the Houston's fans. But we gave you everything you wanted. We did all these things. And Tim, even when I tried to open up a restaurant for this dude, and he left. And so there's a lot of things that the taste is not so great in Houston. And Houston, all respects champions. Look at Warren Moon, one of the greatest quarterbacks of all time, but they don't really put him in the Houston football legacy because he did not win a championship.
Tim, I don't know how you see that. And also, by the way, how you see the fact that James did end up going to Brooklyn when we know the conversations were also so hot and heavy with Philadelphia. Philadelphia that was willing to offer him Ben Simmons in return. Did any kind of sort of bad feelings either about Harden wanting to leave or about his old friend Daryl Morey being guy in Philadelphia play into this as well?
Well, clearly the bad feelings about Harden wanting to leave didn't impact the final decision because he got his first choice. His first choice was to go to Brooklyn, and then he's like, okay, I'll be fine with Philly and then some other teams that add to the list. I really don't think that the relationship and the whatever friction there might be with Daryl Morey was a real factor here. Look, Ben Simmons was on the table. The Rockets did not get the young franchise cornerstone that they've been insisting on getting in return for James Harden. I just think, though, when it got down to it, the historic package of picks that they got back from Nets, that was the deciding factor. The fact those picks are dated well beyond what will be the primes of Harden, KD, and Kyrie. For a rebuilding franchise, I just think that ended up being something that felt like they could not pass up when they basically had to make a deal.
Well, you mentioned picks. Also, they ended up with Victor Oladipo out of all of this, Dante Exum, right? So let's take a look. How good is Houston right now? You've got Oladipo joining John Wall in that backcourt. What do you think, Robert?
It's the injury squad right now. Everybody's coming back from injuries. Are they going to be healthy enough? Because these three guys that he have are great players. Cousins, if he can get healthy, good.
Stay healthy.
Wall,
they're all healthy now.
Good.
So
stay healthy. But if you look at some of them, they're still limping a little bit. I don't think they're 100%. So if they get these guys and get them healthy, they're fine. But those picks, I'm looking at them using that pick because there's going to be another disgruntled superstar out there that's going to say, I want out. And what better place to go than Houston with no state tax, a great team, and picks. So they set themselves up for future, something down the line.
And for a guy like Victor Oladipo, I look at Gordon Hayward, right? Like Gordon Hayward was averaging 17-point game in Boston on a championship caliber team, and people were still saying like, oh, well, Gordon Hayward. It's like, no, he's good. Now he's averaging 22 a night in Charlotte. He's got a little bit more leash. He can have a bad night, not have to worry about people criticizing him because he's their guy. Victor Oladipo now has the platform, has the runway to go be a high-level scorer on this team. It's a matter of getting those reps, getting those minutes, and just going out there and playing. So I like what they have with Victor Oladipo. And to his point, if you have all of the picks, that's how they got James Harden. They traded a couple of players and got a bunch of picks, and then that's what they shipped to OKC to get James Harden. So now it might not be disgruntled. It might just be somebody that's not re-signing. It could be somebody that's like, I want to enter free agency, and they don't want to risk it. So it doesn't always have to be disgruntled. A lot of times it is. But there are other scenarios where it's not always such a bad situation, and you have all of this stuff that you collected to put out there. That's similar to what Danny Ainge did to get Kyrie.
Yep. It's going to be another superstar that want to, see the grass is on the other side.
What do you think, Tim?
I do think the other thing we need to keep an eye here on Victor Oladipo before trade deadline.
There we go.
Whether
Waiting for this one.
he fits really well or not. Look, he's an expiring contract, and I think that's the primary reason he was more attractive to the Rockets than Karis LeVert, who has 2 years after this year at about $18 million per year. And Victor Oladipo, as an expiring contract, maybe there's a team that really likes what they see. They want his bird rights. Maybe there's a team that just sees value in having the expiring contract. But it could be another really significant chip for Rafael Stone, the new Rockets general manager, to play in the trade market.
You're Miami. Are you interested in Victor Oladipo? There's a lot of teams you can see him fitting in with. We'll have plenty of the seasons to talk about that. Tim, thank you so much.
In this. Regarding Kyrie and when he'll be hopefully back and rejoining the team, part of that is going to be up to the NBA, and we're waiting for them to come out so they're ruling on the health and safety protocols. Hopefully we'll have a ruling soon. I have talked to Kyrie, so I know he's excited about getting back on the court with his teammates, as soon as possible. Without a doubt, I'm not going to shy away from it. Without a doubt, the organization's disappointed with not having, any one of our players. In this particular case, Kyrie, not amongst us, not, in the trenches with us and so forth. So, I don't want to speculate and say why he's out and so forth. We've got to support, whether it's our players or whether it's our staff, and you would do that in any industry. But, you also hope there is an adequate, more than adequate excuse as to why he needs personal time.
You hope there is a more than adequate excuse as to why he needs personal time. That was Nets GM Sean Marks addressing the absence of Kyrie Irving due to personal reasons. Guys, let's assume Kyrie comes back. Sean also said today that Kyrie is very excited to come back. It is up to the league, of course, to see when he can come back with COVID protocols. But if we look at the new Big Three in action, in the last 10 seasons, only 8 players have scored more than 1,000 points in the clutch. Guess what? Out of 8, the Nets now have 3 of them.
And KD missed the whole season.
So, big shot, Rob. Who should take the big shot, the last shot, if they're all 3 on the court?
You have to go with KD because his skill set is by far above those guys. Not saying a lot because he's 7 feet tall with the handles of Kyrie, with the shooting ability of James. So you got all 3 rolled in one, so you give the ball to KD and get out the way. That's all you got to do. I remember playing with Houston, getting a large ball. You said, what play do you want? Give the dream and get out the way.
Get out the way.
That's what you do when you have a player like that.
Okay, here, let me answer the question. Steph, greatest shooter of all time. Klay Thompson, one of the greatest shooters of all time. Who was the guy that you wanted to take the last shot? It was Kevin Durant. He was the guy. Now, I'm James Harden, and you got Kyrie Irving. Monsters. Kyrie's hit one of the biggest shots in NBA history. Kevin Durant is the guy that you want taking that last shot whenever possible. Now, you can't double him. You can't hedge him because you got 2 other monsters on both sides, right? So it's like, and a lot of it, the last shot is about making the right play. So if you send 2 people at him, you got James Harden and you got Kyrie. Look, that's one of the biggest shots that has ever been taken on a basketball court in NBA history, right? Nailed it, easy, just walks off. So I just think it really and truly, it's Kevin Durant. If he was the one that you wanted on those Golden State Warriors team, he's definitely the guy that you want on this Houston Rockets, or on this Brooklyn Nets.
Brooklyn Nets, you got to get used to that Brooklyn Nets team. And look, we know they're all going to have big shots, right? That's the quality of these players. As you say, it depends on the defense. Which shot do you think is either more guardable or harder to guard, however you want to phrase it? James Harden's step back 3. He's had the little side step sometimes now too. Or the Kevin Durant shot where he's just up over you in a way that is, we've had some of the great defenders in this league over the last 10 years just say that when Kevin Durant lines up, he's not guardable.
But you can't teach tall. Like, that's what they told us all the time. You can't teach a 7.
So which one? Which one do you think?
The Kevin Durant shot.
That's more lethal.
That's more lethal.
Yeah, because you can get someone that's either as tall as James, quick, who can get to that shot. but there's nobody as tall as KD that can get to that shot. So KD by far.
Look, I'll even take you the Manu Ginobili swat from behind, against the Rockets. Like, you can kind of try and figure out ways to get that done. With Kevin Durant, he's like Dirk Nowitzki. You're not blocking his shot. You're not blocking a 7-foot, high-release, high-arcing shot. It's happened in history, but it ain't.
Unless you get it from behind.
Yeah.